Have you ever looked at someone you've known your whole life? Someone who raised you, cheered you on, and sat at the dinner table with you every night. And suddenly they don't quite seem like themselves anymore? Maybe it's a subtle moment, like they can't find the right word, or they tell the same story twice in the same afternoon. At first, you might brush it off. We all forget things. We all have off days. But then something shifts. Something feels off, and it lingers. That's when the worry sets in. That quiet question in the back of your mind. Is this just getting older, or is it something more? You're not alone if you've ever felt that. So many families have faced this exact fear. And while it's heartbreaking, knowing what to look for early on can make all the difference. Because when it comes to Alzheimer's, timing matters. Recognizing the early signs can help you or your loved one get the right kind of support and care, and hold on to precious memories just a little longer. So today, let's talk about those early signs, what they look like, how they can sneak into everyday life, and why it's so important not to ignore them. Now, we're not going to dive deep into medical terms or scare you with worst-case scenarios. That's not what this is about. This is about understanding, about being present and aware, and about offering compassion to yourself and to the people you love. Let's start with the most common one, memory loss. But not just forgetting where the TV remote went or what day the dentist appointment was. Though that can be part of it. We're talking about memory loss that disrupts daily life. Imagine someone forgetting that they even wear glasses, not just where they left them, or searching for car keys for a car they sold years ago. It's more than a momentary lapse. It's forgetting pieces of reality that were once second nature, and it's not always obvious at first. Sometimes it's repeating the same question several times in one conversation, not because they didn't hear the answer, but because the memory of asking the question vanished completely. If you find yourself answering, "You just asked me that," more than once, it might be worth pausing and asking why. The second sign can feel even more puzzling. Difficulty completing familiar tasks. We all have our routines. Maybe it's brewing the same morning coffee or navigating to the grocery store you visited for decades. When someone suddenly can't remember how to do these things, or they start the task but get confused halfway through, that's a flag. Imagine watching someone who's made the same cup of coffee every morning for 40 years now standing in front of the machine, unsure of what to do next. Or they get lost on the way to a store that's just 5 minutes away, a route they've driven dozens of times. They might blame the appliance or say they were distracted, and sometimes that's true. But when it happens more than once, and when these everyday activities start to feel foreign or overwhelming to them, that's when it's time to pay closer attention. And here's something that's important to remember. It's not just about memory. It's about the brain's ability to connect steps, routines, and familiar actions. That can be deeply frustrating for someone who's always been capable, independent, and sharp. So when they say, "My coffee maker is broken," what they might really be trying to say is, "Something doesn't feel right and I don't know why." These early changes aren't always easy to spot. Sometimes they come and go. One day seems normal. The next feels strange. But if you see a pattern, if these moments of forgetfulness or confusion start to pile up, it's worth trusting your instincts. And it's worth starting the conversation. Now, none of this means jumping to conclusions or labeling someone too quickly. We all forget things. And sometimes life gets in the way. Stress, fatigue, even certain medications can play tricks on our memory. But when you see the same struggles again and again, especially in someone who's always been on top of things, it's okay to feel concerned. It's not about panic. It's about preparation. And above all, it's about love. Because when we notice these signs, it means we care. It means we're paying attention. It means we're willing to be there, no matter what lies ahead. So take a deep breath. You're not alone in this. Families all over the world are walking this path together. And while Alzheimer's can feel like a heavy word, it's not the end of the story. With early recognition, strong support, and gentle care, there's still space for joy, connection, and meaningful moments. They might look a little different, but they matter just as much, if not more. Sometimes the signs aren't as clear as memory loss or forgetting a routine. Sometimes they show up in the way a person sees the world around them, or rather, struggles to make sense of it. That brings us to something that can quietly creep into daily life without anyone noticing at first: confusion with time or place. Now, we've all had those moments where we mix up the days of the week. You wake up thinking it's Thursday and realize it's only Wednesday. But for someone in the early stages of Alzheimer's, this confusion runs deeper. It's not just a mix-up. It's a disconnection from the rhythm of time. They might think it's morning when it's late in the evening. They might get dressed for work, only they've been retired for years. And it's not a one-time slip. It starts happening regularly. They may arrive hours early for an appointment or not at all. They might ask, "Where are we?" in a place they've been 100 times before. Imagine waking up in your own home and feeling like you've never seen it before. That's the kind of disorientation we're talking about. And for the person going through it, it can be terrifying. And that fear, it doesn't always look like fear. Sometimes it looks like frustration or withdrawal or even anger. Because when your mind tells you something is familiar but your heart feels lost, it's a very lonely place to be. This leads us to another sign that's just as easy to miss at first: trouble with words in speaking or writing. This one often sneaks in under the radar. Everyone has moments when a word escapes them. It's right on the tip of the tongue. But what's different here is how often it happens and how simple the words are. Imagine calling a toothbrush that mouth stick, or referring to a refrigerator as the cold thing. These substitutions aren't silly. They're signs that something's misfiring in the brain's language center. And the worst part? They usually know it. That's what makes this sign especially painful. You'll see them get frustrated mid-sentence, stop speaking altogether, or repeat themselves as they search for the right word. Sometimes they laugh it off. Other times they go quiet. Not because they have nothing to say, but because they're embarrassed they can't say it the way they used to. For someone who's always been articulate, or the one telling stories at every family gathering, this can be heartbreaking. You might notice they start to talk less around others, avoid conversations, or lean on vague language like, "that thing over there," more and more. And underneath it all, there's this deep frustration, sometimes even fear, that they're not making sense anymore. And when communication starts to break down, relationships can begin to feel strained too. But that's when our patience, our understanding, and our compassion matter most. Because it's not about correcting them. It's not about finishing their sentences. It's about sitting with them, staying present, and reminding them that they're still seen, still heard, and still valued. Now, there's another sign that's easy to confuse with normal aging, or even with things like bad eyesight or clumsiness, but it's more serious than that. It's trouble with visual perception or spatial awareness. And no, this isn't just needing new glasses. This is about how the brain interprets what the eyes are seeing. They might start bumping into furniture they've walked past every day for years, or have trouble judging steps or doorways. Driving becomes difficult, not just because of memory, but because depth and motion feel off. Even reflections in mirrors can seem strange to them. They might look in a mirror and think someone else is in the room. It sounds small, but it's actually one of the more dangerous signs, especially when it leads to falls, accidents, or getting lost in familiar places. Think of it like this. The brain is starting to process the world in flat images instead of three-dimensional space. Imagine trying to walk through your house while wearing a pair of fogged-up glasses. Nothing looks quite right, and everything feels unfamiliar. That's what it can feel like for someone going through this stage. Suddenly, a rug becomes a hazard, a step becomes a cliff, and a hallway seems endless. And they don't always tell you this is happening. They might not even realize it. You'll just start to notice they move differently, more slowly, more cautiously. They might avoid certain areas of the house or need help with tasks they used to do easily. But again, this isn't about fear. This is about awareness. Because the more we understand these changes, the better we can support the people we love and keep them safe. None of this is easy. It's emotional. It's exhausting. And it's okay to feel overwhelmed sometimes. But what matters most isn't just recognizing these signs. It's how we respond to them, with love, with grace, and with a gentle kind of courage. Because at the heart of every one of these signs is a person with a lifetime of memories, stories, and love to share. And though their mind may shift and change, their spirit, the part of them that laughs, feels joy, craves connection, remains. And that's what we hold on to. There's something especially difficult about watching someone you love start to make choices that just don't seem like them. You might notice they stop paying the bills, they give money to strangers, or start falling for scams that would have raised red flags before. You try to reason with them to explain what's happening, but they insist everything's fine. They're wearing a heavy coat in the middle of summer, or leaving the stove on overnight without realizing it. And it's not because they don't care. It's because something inside their ability to judge situations, to weigh risks, to make sound decisions, is fading. This loss of judgment can happen gradually. It starts with little things. A sudden obsession with shopping channels, strange purchases that show up on the doorstep, or maybe they stop brushing their teeth, wearing the same clothes for days, or forgetting to eat. From the outside, it might seem like neglect, but from the inside, it's confusion. It's a brain that's no longer sending the right signals for what's important, what's safe, or what's necessary. And as frustrating as it is, especially when you're the one stepping in to manage it all, it's also a sign that they need more help than before. Not just with daily tasks, but with choices, big and small. Maybe it's time to gently take over the thermostat controls, or set up spending limits on their account. These aren't easy steps, but they're steps rooted in love, in protecting someone who, once upon a time, protected you. Now, what often catches families by surprise isn't just what's forgotten or misjudged. It's how a once gentle, easygoing person starts to act in ways you never expected. Someone who used to smile through anything now seems irritable, suspicious, even angry. This is another warning sign that cuts deep, sudden mood or personality changes. We're not talking about having a bad day. This is something deeper. Someone who's always been patient may now lose their temper over small things. Someone calm becomes anxious or paranoid. They start accusing others of stealing or hiding things or lying, when in reality, they just can't find their belongings or remember conversations. And when the world no longer makes sense, they can't explain it. So they lash out. It's heartbreaking. It's also important to remember it's not personal. It's not truly them. It's the disease pulling the strings, changing how their mind processes emotion, how they relate to others. They may even grow scared of people they've known for decades. And when that happens, when a mother doesn't trust her daughter or a husband seems distant and unsure, it hurts on both sides. But in those moments, what they need most is reassurance. Even if they can't recognize you fully, they can still feel your energy, your love. And that kind of presence, it's more powerful than we often realize. Eventually, the weight of it all starts to take its toll. The forgetfulness, the confusion, the frustration. And slowly, gently, they begin to withdraw. Not just from people, but from the world. And this is perhaps the most painful sign of all. You'll notice it when they stop calling friends back. When they sit quietly through dinner, barely touching their food, no longer offering their usual stories or jokes. They might stop going to church, skip family gatherings, or simply stay in their room for hours at a time. It's not because they don't care anymore. It's not even because they're angry or depressed, though sometimes they are. It's because they're tired of trying to keep up, tired of getting things wrong, tired of feeling like they're always one step behind. And when they can't find the right words or remember faces or understand the rhythm of conversation, they start to retreat, not just from others, but from themselves. This kind of withdrawal doesn't happen overnight. It creeps in slowly. A missed phone call here, a skipped event there. And before long, the person who used to be the life of the party is now sitting quietly in the corner, looking lost. But they're still in there. Underneath the silence, underneath the hesitation, is someone who still longs for connection. Someone who needs to be reminded they are not a burden. That even now, especially now, they are loved. Because Alzheimer's may try to take away their memories, but it can never take away the feeling of being held, being seen, being cared for. That is where we come in. That is where our strength, our patience, and our compassion matter most. And if you're watching this and you've recognized even one of these signs in someone you care about, please don't ignore it. Don't chalk it up to just getting older. Early action can make a world of difference. Talk to a doctor. Ask questions. Reach out for help. Because the earlier you notice, The more time you have, time to get support, time to make decisions, and time to share the moments that still matter. No one should have to walk through this alone, not the person experiencing it, and not the family who loves them. So let this be a reminder, not of fear, but of hope, that with awareness, we can do better, that with love, we can support each other through even the hardest changes, and that life, even with Alzheimer's, can still hold joy, laughter, and meaning. If this touched you or helped you in any way, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Whether you're a caregiver, a family member, or just someone who wants to learn, you are not alone in this. Please give this video a like. Share it with someone who might need it. And don't forget to subscribe for more comforting, helpful content like this. We're building a space where no one is left behind, especially when it matters most. Here's to loving harder, listening closer, and walking through life's toughest seasons together